All right, today we are diving into one of the most incredible and totally invisible systems inside your body. We're talking about the nonstop, high-speed delivery service that gets oxygen to every single one of your cells. Honestly, it's a masterpiece of biological engineering, and we're going to break down exactly how this amazing process works. So, think about this for a second. You're sprinting to catch a bus, right? Your leg muscles are burning, just screaming for more oxygen. How does your body know to send extra shipments of O2 exactly there to those muscles and not, your earlobes? It's not magic, not at all. It's just a perfectly tuned system. So let's meet the main character in our story. It's a molecule called hemoglobin. And really, the best way to think about it is like the body's own personal Uber service, but one that's exclusively for oxygen. Its only job, its entire purpose, is to pick up oxygen in the lungs and drop it off wherever it's needed the most. And here it is. This is our little oxygen Uber. If you look at it, you can see it's made up of four distinct parts, these subunits. And check this out. At the very heart of each one is a single atom of iron. That iron is the absolute key. It's like the magnet that oxygen grabs onto for the ride. Now, just to give you a sense of scale here, hemoglobin is the protein that literally makes your blood red. And it is packed in there. I mean, every single one of your red blood cells is stuffed with somewhere between 200 and 300 million of these hemoglobin molecules. That is a massive fleet of Ubers ready to roll at a moment's notice. So here's the most important rule of the road for our little Uber. Since each hemoglobin molecule has those four iron atoms, that means each one can carry exactly four passengers, four oxygen molecules per trip. That's it. No more, no less. It's an unbelievably efficient, high-capacity system. Okay, so we've got our fleet of Ubers, and they're great at picking up oxygen passengers in the lungs. But the real genius, the truly brilliant part of this whole system, is the drop-off. How does hemoglobin know exactly where the party is? I mean, where is that oxygen needed most? This is where a beautiful piece of physiology called the Bohr effect comes into play. This is the multi-trillion-dollar question for your body, right? If it gets this wrong, your cells start to starve. Well, the secret isn't some tiny GPS. It's all chemistry. Hemoglobin is designed to literally respond to its local environment. It can kind of sniff out which tissues are working the hardest. Now, I know this graph might look a little complicated, but what it's showing is actually pretty simple. It's all about how tightly hemoglobin holds onto oxygen. Normally, it follows that solid line. But in those hardworking tissues, the curve shifts to the right. See the dotted line? A right shift just means hemoglobin's grip on oxygen gets way weaker. It becomes much more willing to let its passengers go right where they need to get off. So let's just walk through it. A hardworking muscle produces waste products, carbon dioxide and acid. This makes the blood right there in that spot more acidic. Well, that acid acts like a key. It actually causes the hemoglobin molecule to change its shape, just slightly. And this new shape, it just doesn't hold onto oxygen as well. So pop, the oxygen is released right where it's needed. It's a perfect automatic drop-off system. And this quote just sums it up perfectly. The very conditions that an exercising muscle creates, more acid, more CO2, more heat, those are the exact triggers that tell hemoglobin, hey, drop off your cargo here. It's just an incredibly elegant feedback loop. But wait, the journey isn't over. Our Uber has dropped off the oxygen, but it can't just go back empty. No way. It's got a super important job on the return trip, waste management. And this is where something called the Haldane effect comes in. And believe me, it's just as clever as the Bohr effect. And here's the absolute genius of it. The very act of dropping off oxygen makes hemoglobin much, much better at picking up the main waste product, carbon dioxide, for the trip back to the lungs. It's like a biological 2-for-1 deal. So, how does it do this? Well, once the hemoglobin is empty of oxygen, it basically becomes a sponge for the acidic byproducts that CO2 creates in the blood. By mopping up all those byproducts, it allows the red blood cell to safely carry a huge amount of CO2 back to the lungs so you can just breathe it out. So let's put it all together. You can think of it like this. In the tissues, where you have lots of CO2 and acid, hemoglobin is forced to release its oxygen. That's the Bohr effect. But that very same action, releasing the oxygen, makes hemoglobin eager to pick up CO2 for the return trip. That's the Haldane effect. They happen in different places, but they are two sides of the same brilliant coin, working in perfect harmony. Now, this system is remarkably tough. But for it to work, The Uber has to be able to pick up its passengers in the first place. The problems really start when there's an issue at the main hub, the lungs. This can lead to a really common clinical problem known as a VQ mismatch. I know VQ mismatch sounds super technical, but the concept is actually pretty simple. V stands for ventilation, that's the air getting into your lungs, and Q stands for perfusion, that's the blood flowing past that air. For a perfect exchange, you need the right amount of air to meet the right amount of blood. A mismatch just means that balance is totally off. And this table breaks down the two main ways that can happen. You can have dead space, where you've got plenty of fresh air but no blood flow to pick up the oxygen. Think of it like a beautiful new airport terminal with no planes landing. The opposite is a shunt. That's where you have plenty of blood flowing by, but no fresh air getting to it, maybe because of a blockage. That's like having planes at the gate, but the terminal doors are sealed shut. So dead space is wasted air, and a shunt is wasted blood flow. So how do doctors figure this stuff out? Well, they have a tool that's kind of like a diagnostic GPS. They can measure something called the AA gradient, which is basically the gap between how much oxygen is getting into the lungs versus how much is actually making it out into the blood. A big gap is a huge red flag that the exchange isn't happening right, pointing them straight toward a VQ mismatch. So from a single molecule that literally changes its shape based on acidity to a system that perfectly matches delivery to demand, the body's oxygen transport system is an absolute masterpiece of efficiency. And it's happening billions of times a second, inside every one of us, without a single conscious thought. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other incredible, invisible ballets of biology are unfolding inside you right this very second?